At ADP, we're always designing for people, starting with our own. Life at ADP podcast will give you a look into our associates' stories, our culture, and our company.
Well, hello, Kate. Here we are again.
Ingrid, here we are. And it's a big day because we have our first guest on the podcast.
Woohoo! Yes, we do. And I can't wait for our listeners to meet her.
Me either. Okay, so before we get to that, we just wanted to quickly thank our listeners for the support we had with our first podcast and our pilot episode. We dropped it a couple days ago, and we already have some amazing feedback and comments to our social channels at ADP Careers.
It makes me super, super happy to know that people enjoy learning about ADP and found us entertaining, really.
They certainly did. And me too, Ingrid. Well, let's kick this second episode off with a shout out to our campus team and our diversity, equity, and inclusion team, because this week is a really big week for ADP. It's the Grace Hopper virtual celebration. And for those of you who don't know, Grace Hopper was created in 1994 and inspired by Admiral Grace Murray Hopper, who truly was a pioneer in the history of tech. If you aren't familiar with her, just do a quick search and you will be so impressed by her military background and her educational career and all of her contributions.
She truly is inspirational, and this celebration is the largest gathering of women technologists from all around the world. So it's great to know that ADP supports, not just Grace Hopper from a company standpoint, but also the education and growth of their women technologists.
Great point, Ingrid. So I think this is the right time to introduce our guest speaker for today's podcast. Everybody, I would like to introduce you to somebody who I've had the pleasure of meeting within the last year. She's a powerhouse. She's an inspiration, somebody who just instantly makes you smile when you talk to her. Please meet our principal of ADP's Future of Work team, Giselle Mata.
Why, thank you so much. That is so kind. Man, I feel like there was like music that needed to come in while you were saying that. Okay, thank you. It's a pleasure to meet you, and Ingrid as well. Thank you for having me on this Life at ADP podcast.
Of course. It's great to meet you too, Giselle. And we're so happy that you're here. You're a first guest in the podcast. So why don't we start with you maybe sharing a little bit about yourself and who you are?
Well, Ingrid, actually, I want to hear about you too, because your last name intrigues me. So let me ask you first. I'm going to go ahead and tell you about me.
Oh, yeah, that sounds good.
So where are you from? Your last name intrigues me.
Okay, so I am from Colombia, and as a tradition in Latin American countries, we use two last names. You carry your father's last name, but also your mother's. So my first last name is actually from Spain, and my second last name is from Lebanon. But I was actually born and raised in Colombia. So there's the mystery right there. How about you?
I love it. Thanks for asking. I love that. And I'm actually Dominican myself, so Hispanic heritage as well. Shout out to Hispanic Heritage Month that we got going on. And so, yeah, I'm Giselle Mota is how you say it. And I'm just so glad to be celebrating my identity and part of who I am, because you want to know about myself as a person. Like every time I introduce myself, I say I'm an Afro-Latina, right? I'm a woman of color. I'm a neurodivergent woman of color as well, because I have dyslexia, which is something that's on the spectrum. And in fact, as we celebrate both Hispanic Heritage Month, and we talk about people with neural disabilities or neurodivergence, which can be anyone on the spectrum. It could be ADHD, dyslexia, it could be autism, all kinds of things. We're actually going to be hosting an event with Adelante, which is our Latinx BRG here at ADP. And we are going to be having an event where we're talking about neurodiversity as it applies to the Latinx community. And so I had to give that little shout out real quick. but who I am as a person in general, I'm a nerd. I love artificial intelligence. I come from an immigrant family who came to the United States from the Dominican Republic years ago, and I'm a first generation American and first to graduate college from my family. So just, as a person, that's kind of my background. And it you'll see probably in the course of our discussion, it informs a lot of what I do, even professionally.
Latina power in the house. Super cool.
What a great time and what a great coincidence, right? Because we planned Giselle. We're like, okay, she's one of our powerhouses attending Grace Hopper. And then as we're talking, it's like, wait a second, it's Hispanic Heritage Month.
Whoop,
So
whoop. That's right.
very kismet.
Exactly.
So Giselle, we got to know about you as a person outside of work, right? From your interests, your heritage, a little bit about some of the challenges, right? And obstacles that you've learned to work in your favor as a woman in tech. So let's streamline that into Giselle at ADP. What brought you here? When did you start? And what has your experience been like so far?
Yeah, it's absolutely. I'd love to. And it's been a fun story. So I started at ADP about 3 years ago now. And what happened is that I was invited to speak on the future of work, specifically about analytics and artificial intelligence at a Disrupt HR event. Those are those events when you have like 15 minutes to talk about something and make a compelling point, very much like a TEDx talk type of setup. So it's quick, it's dynamic, and you have to get your point across in that amount of time. So when I was there, I went down to Miami for the event, and Martha Bird, our chief business anthropologist, and Jennifer, who was manning kind of a team, a newly formed team that was all about innovation and the future of work. They were speaking that night as well. And there were other presenters from major technology companies that night as well. So when I got up, I presented on the ability for organizations to leverage artificial intelligence and data analytics towards truly this future of work. And how do you actually use these to spur innovation, to stay ahead, because work is constantly changing. So I've been working on consulting and implementing projects on AI and machine learning, automation, analytics, and I shared some of that in the talk that I did that evening. So afterwards, I was approached by Jennifer, who shared with me the work that her team that she'd newly created at ADP, what they were up to. And she shared that potential to take my work that I was already doing and to really continue to build that out and impact what ADP was focused on. And I saw that opportunity to make a difference at a company that wanted to go from being known as a payroll provider to be truly a technology-focused, innovation-based company. And the rest is history. I came along, she convinced me, and I've been here since.
Wow, what a huge compliment to be approached at an event like that. It's kind of like you were being interviewed without really knowing.
That's true. You put it like that. It's a great point. So yes, that's definitely how I started out my journey at ADP.
Awesome. And how has your experience been so far? Has it met your expectations, or what are your aspirations for the future at ADP?
I think that the years that I've been here at ADP, it really seems like it's exponentially compounded. And it happens when you're involved in work that you absolutely love. So even though it's been 3 years, I can tell you, I feel like I've been here for a good 10. My role has led me to do a lot of things. So what I was hired for initially has evolved into lots and it's taken on so many different shapes. So here I am. I've, been able to speak at multiple conferences and events representing ADP's innovation, but also thought leadership around all things future of work. And the key thing that I most value is I'm able to bring my unique perspective into it. So I speak at external events. I was on stage with people like Ellen DeGeneres and Trevor Noah at one occasion on a stage. What an awesome opportunity. I was able to get to MIT and speak there. And then I've been able to be an internal ADP hosted events. And I've often presented alongside of brilliant ADP leaders and minds. Our SVP of transformation and communications, change management for HR, Deb, our president of ADP National Account Services, Debbie, recently I presented with our chief economist, Neela. And even just, I've done things before, I'm going to continue doing with the amazing Martha, the chief business anthropologist here at ADP. And I can go on with amazing people that I've been privileged to speak alongside as they share, and we all share about the future of work. So those, it's just being able to add that level of voice to ADP has been great. And sometimes these speaking engagements have led to direct opportunities with prospects as well, and additional business for our clients. I've been called upon to present to prospects and clients. So whenever they have questions about, hey, how do I use data analytics as a strategy towards, HR transformation? Or we're getting a lot over the past year, diversity, equity, and inclusion questions. How do I approach this? What do I do in a strategic level? How do I, utilize analytics or artificial intelligence to help bridge these gaps? And then just a wide gamut of future work topics. So again, you asked me the question, and the duality of having the foresight of both macro trends that are going on in the world of work, as well as keeping a pulse on the market. I'm a futurist, so I'm always thinking ahead, and just working alongside different business units at ADP, product owners, to influence those products, to reimagine how we're providing our services, to work on the messaging and the branding of what it is that we are saying behind the innovation. That's an area I've been really happy to do. And then finally, serving. So I love serving just in regular life, and I've been able to do that here within ADP. So I'm on the Thrive Business Resource Group, which is a disability inclusion group here at ADP. I sit on the board. I'm also a part of our IWIN, which is International Women's Inclusion Network, and I've been an ambassador for inclusion. I was nominated for that. I have participated on Latinx and Black mentor/mentee programs, right? All to move forward DE&I internally, and just presenting along different groups. I mentioned Adelante, our Latinx BRG, Cultivate, which is our Black group as well, and our BRG, Women in Sales Leadership. I could go on and on just talking about all the amazing ways I've tried to inject myself into what ADP is doing around diversity, equity, inclusion. And at the end of the day, just to wrap that up, is like, I just aspire to continue influencing and collaborating in ways towards pushing inclusion and a positive future of work for ADP and for everybody that we engage with as our clients.
Holy smokes. Okay, first of all, impressive. You have done so much in these 3 years, Giselle. And I just love how this is all almost a positive snowball effect from one happenstance meeting, right? That you didn't even know was about to happen, and just kind of change the course of your career in a way. I just think that that's just so remarkable. And I think it just goes to like the power of connection, which is something that Ingrid and I talked about in our podcast from last week, our very first episode. So I want to lean into something a little bit. You mentioned the DE&I groups that we have here at ADP that we call our BRGs, which is short for Business Resource Groups. And we have 9 of them, many of which you are a part of. With Grace Hopper, this is very timely, right? So Grace Hopper is this week. And as you are attending on behalf of ADP, Grace Hopper being the biggest celebration conference, if you will, for women technologists, what does attending Grace Hopper mean to you as a woman in STEM?
That's a good question. And right now, this is a pivotal time for the workforce in general, and for organizations that are having to think about the people that make up their organizations and that really drive their revenue, their productivity, et cetera. And with that focus, we have seen women leave the workforce. We've seen women of color and people of color in general been affected in their careers over these last several months. So to have this conference at this time, it's very important that, we create a space where people can come together and they can highlight what they're working on, what they're thinking about. They can network with one another. So I believe just creating the space for this group of people who are diverse is such an important venue. It's such an important platform. So the topics in this year's agenda around women in STEM and diversity, equity, inclusion are super relevant. And there's just that opportunity to listen to the sessions and network with like-minded women. It's going to be refreshing. And that's kind of what I'm most looking forward to.
And Giselle, what are those sessions that you're most interested in this year at Grace Hopper?
Yeah, this year I'm looking at the agenda and I love the pieces around artificial intelligence and data science because most of the work that I do and my nerdy disposition is all about that. Those are my focus areas. And I'm just looking forward to hear what people are working on and what they're presenting as new information. The other one was Careers 360, where people get a chance to get up and they're going to talk about all things diversity, equity, and inclusion. I'm really looking forward to that. By the way, there's a couple of speakers there's Haben Girma, who's a human rights lawyer and an author. She herself is visually impaired. And she has been at the forefront of lots of brands that are doing innovation around, for example, self-driving vehicles and other things of that nature. So that disability inclusion, I love it. I love to see it. I'm so glad that somebody of her caliber is speaking at the event. And then there's tech talks as well that I'm really looking forward to hear from people because that's when you hear like the great innovation that's going on and you get to expose yourself. One of the people also that I'm looking forward to hearing from is Timnit Gebru. She used to work and we heard her, we've probably have read about her in the news and seen how she talked about the implication of bias and discrimination and et cetera within AI applications and data. So she exposed a lot of that in companies that she was working with before, and she tried to come up with solutions. So she's an independent scholar these days, and I'm really looking forward to hearing from her.
I'm very envious right now that I'm not attending Grace Hopper because that session in particular really sounds interesting. Not that all of them don't, but even for myself, who's not a woman in STEM, that particularly really grabbed my attention. So really cool. So from an attendee perspective, Giselle, I would argue you're an event expert, whether you're there speaking, or whether you're attending. What would be your advice for an attendee at Grace Hopper when learning about ADP, when approaching our virtual booth?
So when you attend these events, you're going to see a lot of different technologies presented. So it's easy to be enthralled by bells and whistles and to look at just kind of the features and benefits of a product. So I would actually ask whoever's attending that ADP booth, take note not only at whatever ADP has as innovation, but I want you to take an extra look. Look at the underlying aspects that require a more keen eye, those aspects, and ask questions around things like, okay, ADP, this looks great. Tell me more about your security. Your, for example, cybersecurity. What are you doing to protect data through governance? What are you doing around ethics? So if you are using artificial intelligence, tell me your story about your AI ethics and the board that's behind that. Tell me about how you deliver your insights. Where is accessibility and disability inclusion within your products? And then just an overall focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion, because you're going to find that our technology encompasses all that I just mentioned. So from data analytics tools, our next gen solutions, our AI and machine learning, automation, you're just going to find in general that ADP Tech is pointing and confirming opportunities for you to join the work that we're doing here, because it takes people like you into account into how we design and the solutions that we're designing for.
That's awesome. Super, super great advice. And I was actually sharing a little bit about my career journey here, Giselle, in our previous episode, the pilot episode, and I completely agree. Great advice. So to everyone listening and whoever is attending this week, Grace Hopper, take note of the super amazing advice that Giselle just mentioned, and make sure to check our videos in our booth. that features our associates, of course, their stories, and some of their brochures and goodies that we have there for you.
Great call out, Ingrid. And I'm pretty sure the videos you're referencing, you were the creator of. So please, everyone, go give Ingrid some mad props. Go check out her videos. And they feature all of our ADP associates, which is really special. All of our content is uniquely authentic to who we are at ADP. And we always showcase our own associates, kind of similarly to how we did right here, Giselle. So listen, we have loved having you here today and joining us. We really appreciate you taking time away from the conference to sit down and talk with us and, share with our listeners some things to think about for their future of career. To talk about, also the power of connection, and then also to kind of shed light behind some of the things that if they are attending Grace Hopper, that they should be on the lookout for. So thank you so much. And if you wouldn't mind, can you share your LinkedIn handle so that our listeners know where to find you should they want to connect?
For sure. It's linkedin.com/IN/G Mota. So the handle itself is just G like Giselle, Mota, MOTA, last name.
Thank you so much for joining us. It was a pleasure. We will definitely catch up after Grace Hopper to hear how the celebration went. And we are so thankful for you representing ADP at Grace Hopper. Thank you, Giselle.
Yes, thank you, Giselle.
Oh, thank you both. You both actually make me smile on today's session as well. It's been a pleasure.
Okay, Ingrid. Wow, what a powerhouse. I mean, we have a 25 minute conversation, right? And we probably could have taken so many different directions with all that Giselle shared and created a whole season of podcasts just off of that.
I know, right? And I'm so glad that I finally had the chance to meet her, as I have heard so many great things about her. I mean, wow, like great, amazing. Okay, so we started a tradition in our pilot episode with sharing one reason why we are proud to be part of Life at ADP. You went first last week, so I'll go first this week, if you don't mind.
I do not mind, my friend.
Okay, sounds good. Well, I am proud to be part of ADP because with the recent, natural disasters that happened here in the U.S., we had recent hurricanes, floods, storms, and even wildfires. ADP, through the ADP Foundation, offers disaster response and relief efforts to our associates, which to me is super important and critical for the associates who got affected. So I'm proud to be part of ADP and all the social responsibility work that we do here.
I think that's really remarkable, Ingrid, and really great choice to share as your proud moment. I would echo those exact same sentiments, particularly around the cause of taking care of our ADP associates. That's something that's amazing and something that actually really drew my attention to ADP when I was doing my pre-joining research. The ADP Foundation really stood out. So my proud moment would be the work that we are doing with our diversity events. So as you know, I help support diversity events specifically for our tech talent side. And 2 weeks ago, we sponsored Render Atlanta, which was the largest React conference in the Southeast. We have Grace Hopper this week. And then in November, we have Afrotech. So for me, diversity, inclusion, equity, belonging, they're just all extremely important to me personally and professionally. And so being able to support these efforts with the ultimate goal of helping people find jobs, I mean, that's incredible. I mean, at the end of the day, what we do is provide support for people to find jobs. That's just amazing.
Yeah, that's incredible. It's definitely another reason why I love being part of ADP.
And Ingrid, talking about DEI, how cool that we didn't even realize that Giselle was a Latina, and you both have that commonality. I just love that.
Yeah, I super love the fact that Giselle is involved with, our Latinx BRG here at ADP, and she's always representing the Latin Hispanic community. So, that's super awesome in addition to the many other great things that she does.
I couldn't agree more, Ingrid. Well, this has been our first full episode of Life at ADP. Stay tuned for our next episode, where we will discuss with some of our talent acquisition partners what makes a top candidate and getting a career with ADP. This is Kate.
And this is Ingrid.
And we are part of Life at ADP, the podcast.